Guys, I've been absent. Sorry. Yes, I had a terrible, terrible chest infection. Actually, the doctor said to me it was a little bit on the borderline of pneumonia. We've in the area we've had a couple of bad flu runs, and I thought, well, that's all it was. So I held out on the doctor until the very last minute. However, been on the mend. This week has been the first week I actually feel like a little bit of a human again. That's why the absence, and I apologize greatly because I made a promise to myself that I was going to try and get along to the podcast as much as I possibly can. We had a couple of guests lined up. Unfortunately, we had to postpone. So I'm trying to get them back on and reschedule all of that. So it's been a little bit of a mess. We've had the guys out in the field hunting. So yeah. So we're just trying to recoup and regather and get things back on the way. But it feels good to be back, and it feels good to sit in this chair again and hopefully talk to you guys a little bit about a little bit more of an interesting topic we've got on this week's episode of the podcast. Before I get into that and before we start the intro, Wayne Dell is running a Backer Buddy account for Zwei. Zwei is his old tracker who unfortunately lost his leg due to some sickness and ill mispractices at the public hospital, and which led him to lose his leg. He'll be assisting us on the upcoming hunt with the Parkmans now starting on the 17th of July. I've asked him to come along and help with the skinning and stuff because his work is absolutely phenomenal. If you guys would like to get involved with that, please hit me up on any one of my social media platforms. I can send you guys the link to the Backer Buddy account. We're looking to raise 250,000 Rand to get him a new prosthetic leg, which will help him bring some more money in for his family, for himself, and just give the man a little bit of dignity. He's a wonderful character. He's a great personality to be around, and every little bit helps. So if you guys have got a bit of spare cash lying around, please don't be shy. Donate. It's worth every cent. I can promise you that now. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode of the podcast. So guys, there's been quite a bit of movement around in the hunting industry. Of course, it's hunting season, right? We've got to get out there and put feelers out and see how the industry has evolved, what's been happening in and around. There's been some drama, there's been some scandals. This hunting season has had pretty much everything possible thrown at it, and it's up to us as hunters now, as fellow hunters, fellow conservationists, to try and bring a little bit of stability to this whole thing, right? I don't want to get too much in the political side of things. I promised myself that the Cyril Ramaphosa, the Donald Trump thing was something I wasn't really going to keep touching on. I don't really want to get into politics on this podcast. This podcast is all about offering advice, social networking, and educating people about the hunting industry within South Africa. However, when it does have professional hunters involved, outfitters, unethical business and stuff, I do feel an obligation to actually bring a little bit of light to this and bring it and air my opinion about it, because I do feel it's something that we have to make others aware of, and I'm going to try and navigate this as safely as I possibly can without being implicated in the whole thing, but also to try and navigate a way around it to give people a more of an honest perspective on the whole on what's happened out there. Just for reference, it's not what the podcast is about. This week's episode of the podcast is all about a decade into trophy hunting. What have we learned? What has changed? How things have moved along swiftly. But before we get into it, unfortunately, guys, as well, another thing, I got to break good news to you. There's no story tonight. I tried my best to go and filter as many as I possibly could. There's a couple of really, really good ones. I couldn't get it in time and put it onto my schedule for the podcast, so I'll have to miss this episode, but I promise you it will be back on the next one. But so let's just touch base on quickly what's happening. Salt Lake Outdoors has called out FASA on some of the recent misfortunes of a client that came out and was promised a hippo hunt. However, things didn't materialize. There was money that traded hands, never got paid back to the client. Therefore, there was an upset client, and he didn't ask for the money to be returned to him. He asked that it would be donated into an orphanage. However, the outfitter in question didn't honor that responsibility, hasn't honored it yet. Sean Kogut from Salt Lake Outdoors jumped in and essentially became the mediator between the two parties, where FASA kind of swept it under the rug. Now, Sean is holding FASA responsible for the whole misleading and everything that went about from the outfitter's perspective. And from FASA and the outfitter side of things, they're saying that it's just a misjudgment and there's a little bit of trolling going on and all that sort of stuff. Put everything into perspective. Here's what I take of it and what I've read and what I've come to understand. I want to start off by saying that FASA is an institution that is meant to be out there to assist all parties, from outfitters, PHs, and clients coming out to enjoy this beautiful country of ours. And I do feel they need to hold themselves accountable when things like this do happen, especially if the outfitter is a FASA member. It's very important to highlight that they have a lot of the guys that I've read from comments and stuff saying that FASA is not a police station. They're not here to police and monitor what goes on social media. Sure, 100% understand that and 100% agree with that. However, they do have an obligation to make sure that this industry is as clean as possible. Now, Sean's released a couple of things out there, and everything is online to go along and read and look into and really get your guys' opinion on it. I'm just sharing my point of view and how I've kind of read about the whole thing. So I do feel that the outfitters are in the wrong, or the outfitter is in the wrong. And I do feel that FASA is in the wrong. FASA need to hold themselves accountable, hold themselves at a steady hand. I have offered Tony DeBrain to come onto the podcast numerous amounts of times. I've sent him a questionnaire of questions that I would like to ask him from a PH point of view, as well as involving this scenario, because I do feel it's an opportunity for them to explain themselves. However, when people on social media highlight that FASA is the only reputable institution out there for professional hunters, I kind of disagree with that. A lot of the comments I saw, I can't remember where, and I wish I had reference to it, but a lot of the comments I saw that, how do you know if a professional hunter or outfit is reputable? And one of the comments said, well, if he's not listed on FASA, he's not reputable. And I completely disagree with that. I've never been associated with FASA. I didn't agree with a lot of their policies that they were out there for. They said one thing and they delivered on another. Just personal experiences, got nothing against them. I'm sure they do some incredible work elsewhere, and I'm all for them trying to help our professional hunters as much as possible. But that's exactly it. I didn't feel that they had the best interest of the professional hunters at heart, and therefore they benefited off of a lot of the subscriptions and all that sort of the money coming in from the professional hunters. But that's just my personal opinion. It's completely nothing against FASA. I know they do some incredible work out there. It's just when you as an individual don't align with a certain institution, it doesn't mean that they're bad. It just means that me and FASA don't quite align. And it's not because they're a bad institution, it's just because our personalities don't quite match, and that's why I've never gone with them. And I've always been an independent. I've always backed myself at the high morals and standards I hold within my outfitting company and as a professional hunter. So I've never felt the need to really venture off and get into parts of these institutions. I am looking at it completely differently now. I am looking at custodians and a couple of other ones out there, maybe even starting my own one, who knows. So that's FASA's side. Now, I'm not taking any sides in this whole debate. I'm just giving my personal opinion. My opinion about Sean. Now, I've had Sean on the podcast. I've been on Sean's podcast before, which actually never really aired, I don't think. But my personal opinion on Sean, I think he's an incredible individual, and he's the epitome of what a conservation hunter is all about. Sean hasn't only come out here and hunted our species, he's come in here and deep dived into a lot of the cultural aspects of what South Africa has to offer. He's donated a bunch of money to establishments around the Eastern Cape, which I'm forever grateful for, even though I've never really been a personal part of it. It's just great to see him doing his little bit and giving back to communities. So I honestly think, and a lot of people have kind of labeled him as a keyboard warrior and all this sort of stuff, but I honestly think Sean's purely just got everyone's best interest at heart. He loves this country so much that he is willing to stick his neck out for unethical and moral behavior that needs to be held accountable for. And you have to admire somebody with such drive and such ambition. There's a lot of us out there, and myself included, I shied away from exposing the real truth of what was really going on. I tried to, but when push came to shove, it got completely misread online. And I think it was actually through Sean's podcast where I generalized, just my wording was completely out. But anyway, cut a long story short, I'm all for individuals coming out to South Africa, holding outfitters accountable to their moral and ethical standards. I think it's very, very important. I think we need more of that. I think if individuals aren't going to do that, outfitters, PHs, and even hunters are going to get away with absolute murder. And that's not what we want. It's not a good light for our hunting industry, and it's not a good light for the industry as a whole. Now, one of the discussions is that they said Sean's bringing unnecessary attention to the hunting industry and therefore playing in the hands of the greenies. I can completely see that point of view. However, and I think Faza released a statement saying that he was doing more damage to their reputation than the greenies and those people. That's fine, because you've got to sleep in the bed you make. So if you are going to be supporting unethical behavior and you are going to try and sweep it under the rug, you need to understand that that's the bed you're making and you've got to lie in it. Sean is just making sure that the industry is as clean as possible, so that when these bunny huggers come around and try and lambaste our industry as a whole, at least we've got a leg to stand on. And I'm going to speak a little bit about it tonight in this week's episode on this topic. And I think that's a good thing. I think we need more of that. I do, however, feel that, what's good for the other has got to be, I can't remember what they're saying, I'm about to butcher it, but I'm no means, Sean has never hunted with me, he doesn't endorse me in any way or anything like that. I just enjoy his content that he puts out there. I enjoy his reasoning for coming out to South Africa and hunting. I enjoy his persona about the hunting industry within South Africa, and I'm grateful that he loves our country as much as what I do. So this is just hence why I'm putting my opinion forward. So with that being said, that's all I have on the topic. I back both sides, but in this case, I do think that Sean's got a leg to stand on, and I think he's done an exceptional job at holding people accountable. He doesn't want to destroy anyone's career. He doesn't want to destroy any outfitter's reputation. He doesn't want to do any of that. He just wants to make things right. That's all. And that's my opinion I get from it. I could be wrong. I could be 100% wrong. I understand that. But it's my opinion, and that's what I've taken from it. So, with that being said, let's move along into the topic I have for you guys tonight. Excuse me, sorry, I'm going to be coughing a little bit because I've still got a bit of a itchy throat. So, 10 years ago, the trophy hunting industry looked completely different to what it is now. So if we rewind all the way back down to 2015, chasing Big Five experiences, there was a lot of money thrown around. The industry was booming at that stage. I I had gone and done my first trade show out in the United States, and I kid you not, sable specials were $5,500 a sable, where it's completely different nowadays. It was all about the trophy size, all about the kudu spiral, the lion's mane, the impressive taxidermy work, and that set a benchmark for us going forward. And Donald Trump was about to come into office, and things looked pretty much on the up for the hunting industry. But then we had a massive social media boom as well. Now, this did two things. So in 2015, those of you that can remember, a very famous lion got hunted. Cecil the Lion was hunted and killed. Now, because of social media, it blew this up completely and gave a false narrative on what really the hunting industry is all about in Southern Africa. And overnight, we had outfitters becoming a little bit more conscious. So too, professional hunters becoming a little bit more conscious about how they post things and how they put word out there on social media, and how they perceive their characters are perceived on social media, because now it became a very important topic for us to discuss, right? Is how ethical are things actually being done? Because for some time, without social media, the hunting industry has been flowing along nicely without any judgment, because we never had the judgment before, because nobody was posting animals, nobody was posting hunting experiences. Everything was done pretty much by word of mouth, advertising at shows and attending the trade shows and trying to sell guys hunting packages. Cecil the Lion changed everything. They put a massive regulation on exports of CITES animals, more specifically the lion at the time and the elephant. Airlines banned a lot of the transportation of this. It became an absolute nightmare as far as paperwork was concerned. So everything was turned pretty much upside down and pretty much overnight. And we were hoping with the Trump administration coming in, a lot of this would be squashed pretty much immediately. Get things back to normal. Let's move along swiftly, and let's make sure that the hunting industry can thrive. We were so wrong. Things were turned upside down as far as that side of the industry is concerned. You see, the hunting industry in South Africa, in my personal opinion, is broken up into different segments. We have got trophy hunters who hunt on traditional game farms, and the traditional game farms are spread out over various different patches in the country: Limpopo, Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Free State, Natal, all these different places. We're very, very fortunate to have that. Then we've got the Big Five. Now, the Big Five is broken up into parks and areas that are being given specific tags, whether it be destruction animal, lion tags, leopard tags, whatever. Okay. And that's a little bit more up north, the Kalahari and Limpopo, those areas, Botswana border. Then we've got the breeders, the guys who are breeding to fulfill the sustainable model that the South Africans have adopted for many, many years, and refill the land once the hunters have moved off, and it now becomes a little bit of a barren wasteland without any animals on there. And then we've got the run-of-the-mill freelance, like myself, outfitters who bounce around from property to property, trying to make an honest living through connections that they've had, whether it be a stock farmer, small game farm, or a small hobby farm from some wealthy businessman. And that has opened the doors for a lot more discussion. Now, like I said again, social media. On one side, it was a completely negative impact. On the other side, it afforded people different opportunities, like myself, that could voice and share their experiences online and have the individuals judge for themselves, do a little bit of their own research, come out to South Africa, come and hunt with me, beautiful sunsets, wonderful walks on the beach, hunting oribi along the coastline, whatever it may be. It became more of a lifestyle approach rather than a trophy hunting exhibition. People became a little bit more conscious about conservation and how conservation really worked. And thanks to not massive corporations, but thanks to massive outfitters such as Johnny Safaris, who have educated a lot of us, myself included, through a podcast, but also through their YouTube channel and their social media feed, about how sustainable conservation can actually take place. And it can take place on pretty much on your backyard. And that's what they've done. They've been the pinnacle, in my opinion, the pinnacle of self-sustainability within their own rights. And I think they have adopted a model that has been very, very influential in the hunting industry in a positive way. And I'm forever grateful for that, because we need more of that. I can list them. I've got Buffalo Kloof, that comes off the top of my head. Two Water Safaris also comes off the top of my head. And there's a number of them out there, which is extremely exciting. But conservation became the pinnacle talking point when clients came out. So slowly but surely, the size of the animals started shifting and drifting into the sunset. And now it was all about ethical hunting. How old was the animal? Because now clients are becoming more and more educated on how things are actually getting done in South Africa and Africa alike. So it didn't matter if you shot a 46-inch East Cape Kudu bull, as long as it was a good old conservation bull, past its prime. You know, the famous old story. It needs to be past its prime. I don't want to see teeth at the bottom. And more of that was happening. But not only was the conservation taking place with the animals, so too, like I mentioned before with Sean's story, so too was it taking place off the ranch, at orphanages, schools. SER was getting a lot more involved in development of young individuals in South Africa, which was a wonderful thing to see happen. Big blue bags all over the Eastern Cape, all over the Northern Cape, all over the KwaZulu-Natal region, getting delivered into these different orphanages and these places of less fortunate, which was wonderful. It was incredible to see. It showed our hunting industry was more than just about killing an animal. It was something more than that. It was special. It was investing into habitat, investing into individuals, and most importantly, investing into different cultures, local employment, and habitat preservation. So what did the economic shift do post-COVID? Now, let's not ignore the fact that the big COVID word, for me personally, I lost pretty much everything. I lost my house, I lost my vehicle, I pretty much lost my sense of direction and my will to live, to be honest with you. But 2021 kind of put a little bit of a blinker on it, blindfolded us to the realization on how long this process was actually going to take for us to get out. Because in 2021, season boomed. Everyone wanted to get in before it was too late or shut down again. And everyone came out and we hunted almost 280 days of the year, which seems a little bit obscured, but that was truth and that was fact. We hunted more species than we've ever hunted. We decimated populations and herds, and now we were pretty much on the back foot going into 2022. But how long was it really going to take for us to really start surviving through what was probably one of the worst financial years for any one of us in the hunting industry? And we're only kind of really sticking our necks above the water this year, and maybe next year we can't get completely out. But that's what happened. The whole thing shifted. And although I don't think it was an important time for it to happen, it certainly taught us, and myself included, professional hunters, freelance outfitters, how to manage, how to hold your cards very close to your chest as far as financial stability is concerned. Is this industry worth it? Or were we chasing a lifestyle? A lot of professional hunters found the true meaning of PhD not just being a career and it being a calling when times got tough. Taught us a lot. And we've learned a lot. We've also grown as individuals. We've grown into more sensible conservationists. And I speak for the vast majority of us. Everyone I've seen has held a very high standard. And I think that is only testament to the hard times that happened. And I'm grateful for that. We also saw, I want to say, not a digital age in hunting, but we've seen things transcend a little bit. Go a little bit further than just the point and shoot. People have become more conscious about bow hunting. People now are showing their skills in long range shooting. Massive big scopes, night vision scopes, predator control. Like mentioned, bow hunting, traditional bow hunting. South Africa has seen a boom in this vast expansion of different disciplines within the hunting industry. More so now, and thanks to the social media age, more so now we've seen bow hunting thrive in South Africa. We've seen specific game farms setting up for South Africans. Not only for South Africans, for foreigners to come out and enjoy. We've seen them put up blinds over watering holes, feeding regulation, not restrictions, feeding routines, and getting the animals to understand, well, be a little bit more passive around those areas of the farm. It's an exciting time. It really is. It's taught us in the same breath to become better storytellers. Not only trying to be the biggest pigeon in camp or on the campfire by who's got the best story, but telling an elegant story about your day's experience, and not just about hunting animals, about the bigger picture, conservation, experience, culture, individuals, friendship, family. That's what it's taught us to do. Why? Because we've had to move forward with times. People are now digitally more conscious than ever before. They're more educated. They understand more about our conservation models. And it's not that it's chased it away. They've just wanted to invest more into it. But us as South African professional hunters, outfitters and hunters, we've had to be better at what we've been doing for so long. Storytelling, like I mentioned. So hunting in the past 10 years, especially trophy hunting, has taught us not only to be better hunters, but be better conservationists, be better storytellers, be better individuals across the board. And I think for what I've seen online and from who I've met and where I've met, the friendships I've made, the podcast guests I've interviewed, it's been a mind-blowing experience how individuals have changed in the past 10 years. It's not about slapping the dollar in your wallet as quickly as possible. It's more about understanding that that dollar can go so much further than just your property. And that is the special thing. Was that because of COVID? Was that because of Cecil the Lion? We don't know. But I can tell you right now, it had a massive part to play. And that's just my personal opinion about it. And we can say what we want, whether it was good or bad for the industry, for the not so seeable future. I think it was good for every individual to experience that, to experience a little bit of panic, a little bit of hard time. Because with that, only good things tend to follow. We've been through some of the hardest periods in the hunting industry, like attack from the greenies on Cecil the Lion, shutting borders, COVID, absolutely no income coming in for a whole year and a half. Stressful, not knowing where your next meal was coming from. But through the chaotic mindset of it all, somewhere along the line, majority of us have all surfaced being better than what we were before. And I can only put a tribute to that is that we've learned. We haven't been arrogant enough to brush it off like it never happened. We've taken those moments of hardship And we've molded them into a better lifestyle and a better character of who we are. Because we haven't really changed much as far as our personalities are concerned. But our perception on how this whole big wheel of conservation and life and hunting, trophy hunting, moves has changed. 100%. And you can argue with me until we're blue in the face that it hasn't. I will always argue against that. It's been a humbling experience, to say it all. But I think for the vast majority of us, we've all been willing to evolve. And from my side, if you are listening to this, and you are one of those individuals that have only seen yourself evolve into a better hunter, better conservationist, better professional hunter, better outfitter, whatever it may be, thank you. Thank you. It means the world to me and so many millions others, because we've made this industry a little bit better than what it was before. And we can hold our heads up high on any one of our social media channels and walk through that South African bushveld knowing that we've had a part to play in this. When I started PH Journals, one of my catchphrases was, I don't just want to be a part of it. I want to change it. And I think we've done that. Not through PH Journals, don't get me wrong, but through some of the hardships we've endured. And if you've been any one of those individuals that have come from across the pond to support us on this growing adventure, thank you. It means the world to us. Like you don't know. And I know we don't often say this to fellow hunters, more specifically the individuals that come out, and we call you guys clients. But we've built friendships. Friendships that last for a very, very long time, if not forever. And we are truly grateful. And I hope the rest of you guys don't mind me speaking on behalf of you, but it's been a very, very special learning experience. So I look forward to the next 10 years. I think the landscape of hunting is going to change even more. And we're going to look back at this podcast and say, holy shit, how much has changed in the last 20 years? Because it's mind-blowing. So guys, with that being said, firstly, thank you. I know I don't say this often, but thank you to everyone listening. You guys have all made a difference. To me, I've been so fortunate, and my journey is only just beginning. So, thank you. So, I'm going to close this one off. We've spoken for quite a while. Just some updates. I'm hoping to have a guest on next week for next week's episode. My brother's getting married this weekend, so it's been a little bit of a mad rush. Hopefully we can get the guest on before we go out to start the Parkman hunt on the 17th of July. Zach Wayndell will be one of the PHs on that as well. Zach's coming out for the second time. He's bringing his pops along and his brother. I'm looking forward to this one because I'm hoping to have them on the podcast as well. Like always, if you guys haven't yet, catch us on any one of our social media platforms. Head along to YouTube. The Fellow Deer Rut season episode is still up and it's pumping. We've had a lot of positive feedback from that, and I thank you guys enough for supporting it. But that's pretty much it, guys. For myself, don't forget to support Zwei. If you guys have got a little bit of cash lying around, please, every little bit helps. I will definitely be donating to the cause. I want to see a tracker get his spring back in his step. Excuse the pun. But yeah, that's it for myself. Like always, if you are, happy hunting. Until then, stay safe, stay blessed, stay humble. We'll catch up with you guys soon.